Welcome to Norse Code, the number one podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host producer. My name is James Pagashnik. Thank you guys so much for listening. And at the other end of the tin can and string, we have our analyst and co-host. You know him from numerous blogs and podcasts around the internet, most notably from the Wide Left Substack. He is Mr. Useful Human, Arif Hassan. Arif, we're a couple days out from Christmas, and that must mean that you are out on the East Coast being an East Coast elite.
Okay, I feel like not everyone on the East Coast is an East Coast elite. I feel like that unfairly maligns a number of people who live on all kinds of cities. Like there's a lot of people who are salt of the earth type people in Philadelphia, in New York City, in Newark, New Jersey for some reason, in Providence, Rhode Island, I'm sure, Baltimore. That's not fair. But I am in Burlington, so doesn't really. You are
in Vermont, so at that particular moment, if it's not quaint, it's cozy.
Yeah, I am currently wearing a sweater over my flannel. Like that's actually happening. So
are you in a are you in a like mid to early 90s J.C. Penney catalog? Is that what you're doing? Is that the look
I
that
just told
for?
you I'm in Burlington, Vermont. Yeah, no, I'm of the people here. The only way I could look more of the people here is to get a puffy vest, which may be my Christmas gift. I don't know.
I suppose we have, this is before Christmas Day and before our shots had a chance to fully wow you as far as the,
right.
As far as your brother is concerned. So yeah.
I had a quarter zip on yesterday, man. It's nuts here.
It's like, look, you land at the airport. In Hawaii, they give you flowers. Here, you get some coffee.
Yeah, right.
You get a little container of maple syrup.
I did get that, actually, yeah.
So, with that, welcome to this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys are all doing well. This week, we're just going to have the one episode, so we do have the preview of the Lions game with Jeremy Reisman that we have, that Arif recorded, earlier today. So we'll play that after we talk about the win over the Giants. And then we have a small mailbag as well. But before we start, again, thank you guys so much for listening to Norse Code. If you enjoy the show and would like to help us out financially, there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can go over to patreon.com/NorseCode for $3.50 a month or a little less for the year subscription. You get access to the Discord, bonus episodes, all of that. We will have our Christmas episode out for everyone on Christmas Day. That is looking like the thing. I am very close to it being done, so that should be done on or be ready for you on Christmas. And then the Patreon people will get one around New Year's as well, with some new stuff in there that hasn't been released. So check that out. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode as well for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com for any number of wonderful pieces of Norse Code merchandise, including the new Hell League shirts. And we're in the Hell League playoffs now, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the mailbag. But like a lot of different leagues, a lot of the favorites went down this week, and it was fun going through and I have to check every week to make sure that everyone followed the rules. And right. Going through all of the games in 13 leagues sucks, and I hate it. But I love this league so much that I'm willing to push through that. And the leagues there's a lot of real fun names that are going to come out on top. So I think we'll read those next episode.
All right, next episode.
Yeah, I think one of them is a Reef's appropriated car.
There are some pretty good ones.
Yeah, there's a number of good ones. So we'll
I
go
did
some
lose
later.
In one of my two leagues, and I think you put a bounty on eliminating me, right?
I did. So the people who knock you out of the either championship or beat you in the championships, I am sending Hell League t-shirts to. So I do need to reach out to. I believe Nolan Kaler is the one who knocked you out in the original Hell League. So
I'd say congrats, but F you, dude.
You can't say that to a Canadian opera star. You can't do that. Well, he works for the CBC too. Never mind. You're fine. You're fine. My bad.
Oh yeah. Okay. Great. Otherwise, I would have to say sorry.
Oh,
right?
Well, I was going to apologize for doxing, so no, we're good. So let's get into the show itself and the review of the Giants game. And obviously, the headline out of this is McCarthy went down in the second half. or I say first half, he instead of just running the ball, he got sacked and likely injured his hand before this, but he went down with an injury. Looks like what's the official terminology on that? It's like a hairline fracture in his hand.
A hairline fracture on his hand, yeah.
So
which they did not catch initially.
No, and he looked to be in a lot of pain when they were looking at it on the sidelines.
They touched it briefly, and he yelped in pain and jumped away, which I can so empathize with. That was so human.
Yeah, that was not 9. That was JJ McCarthy, and that was absolute pain. So we can talk a little bit about kind of the progression in how he was playing between the last 3 games, which have been the 3 watchable performances by JJ McCarthy, and what's been done. I actually, the person I felt worst for in all of this was Justin Jefferson, who was finally getting targets and connections. It looked like they had almost figured out what they were supposed to be doing against yet another terrible defense.
Yeah, no, they'd connected. I believe there was one Jefferson play that was still kind of of the type, right? That was subpar.
Yeah, and then a drop.
But yeah. But for the most part, there was some level of connection. It wasn't really the style or kind that we'd been seeing, right? With even with Carson Wentz, but more with Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins, and kind of Joshua Dobbs, I guess, where it was intermediate or down the field. It was a lot of shorter passes to Jefferson, who was able to turn a lot of them into longer plays. I mean, he was converting a screen on 3rd and 12. He converted a crosser with a TJ Hawkinson block on 3rd and 13. And these were all negative depth of target, as well as 2-3 yards downfield depth of target. Not really the kind that we typically see. We did get Max Brosmer connecting with him on a 21-yard out, which was crazy.
In a place that the defender could not get to.
Right. It was a Vol, Brosmer, our guy? Brosmer, the gopher? That guy? The New Hampshire guy? Yeah. But we did get to see a lot more of it. With McCarthy, he got 60-odd yards, right? And again, it wasn't exactly, where I think offensive design would put it, because even with Jefferson, it's a pretty low percentage chance for you to be able to convert those 3rd and longs on those types of plays. So you're going to want to see it in more, sustainable places. But of course, that's not happening anymore with McCarthy out. So we're kind of, I think, still this is a positive sign, but we haven't really seen anything that would suggest that we know that this is turning around, is probably the way I would characterize that.
It was fun to watch. He didn't throw more than one pass in the middle of the field, but McCarthy seemed to be doing well. Again, this is a Giants team that is not good at all, and is likely going to be playing the Raiders this weekend for the right for the number 1 pick. But
yeah, I will say though, if you look at it unit by unit, right? So you take a look at the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Giants. All of these defenses are bad. Don't get me wrong. This is a relative point I'm making, where I believe the Cowboys and Commanders in pass defense and EPA per play is something 30th and 28th or something like that, all bottom 6, right? And the Giants heading into the game were 21st. Again, below average, not a good one, but their best component on either side of the ball this year has been passing defense. Again, we're measuring with a short stick, right? This is not wonderful news for the Giants, who are competing for the number 1 overall spot. But that is the context with which we can evaluate, McCarthy's all right performance. So his most negative play, right, which we can talk about, was first of all, it was poorly managed by O'Connell to get there, a run at the beginning of which I know a lot of coaches do this, but I hate it. So I think that the fact that a lot of coaches do it, I think, doesn't justify it. But a run that burned the clock in with like less than a minute left, setting up for a pass play. And the pass play itself is a long developing pass play. Now, when I said I didn't like this long developing pass play after the run, a couple of people responded with like, well, it's not a long developing pass play. Actually, the screen was being defended. You take a look at the All-22. That is accurate, right? The screen that was the design of the play was well defended, and McCarthy correctly chose not to throw the screen. But all screens are long developing pass plays. Like that is an important, like it didn't matter that from the perspective of that particular critique that, the reason McCarthy held onto the ball is because it was blocked up. It was still a long development pass play. So from a game clock management perspective, that I still think falls under the purview of the criticism. So he holds onto the ball, gets blasted. It's a fumble, scoop and score. The Giants' only touchdown of the game. When you look at the replay, it looks like McCarthy is trying to dirt the ball. Now he's doing so under pressure, and I don't think there's an eligible receiver there. So, and I could be wrong about that, but I think that is intentional grounding. Like the reason a spike is not intentional grounding, aside from the fact that officials can choose to enforce whichever plays they want to enforce, is that intentional grounding only occurs under duress, and quarterbacks are not pressured in the pocket on a spike because they're getting rid of the ball right away. Here he is, right? So it might be intentional grounding if it wasn't ruled a fumble on the field, but the ball slips out of his hand before he can throw it forward anyway. So I'm not even saying it was incorrectly called. What I'm saying is his hand was hurt several plays before this, and he couldn't hold on to the ball, and the ball slipped out of his hand on the backswing, making it a fumble. And then, for his trouble, he gets demolished. He gets decked by Brian Burns. So, great. He tries to spike the ball, fails to do that. If he had done that, maybe that would have been an intentional grounding. And then it's a scoop and score. So obviously there's like a criticism of McCarthy there, like you got to throw the ball away. Also, that sucks circumstance. Like it looks like you couldn't hold on to the ball. And also like there's a lot of debate about, was Brian O'Neill responsible for it? And you take a look at the replay, and it looks like he's doing nothing, right? And that's a product of the blocking rules and the fact that the Giants had 3 over 2. They had 3 rush defenders over 2 potential pass protectors. And so you block what's called the most dangerous man, and you block inside out. That's what MDM is, most dangerous man. And so the furthest out player is the quarterback's responsibility. But that's not the only protection scheme that exists in the world, of course. You will often have the tackle read inside to out. I shouldn't say often. You will sometimes have a tackle read inside to out, and maybe he should have immediately, when he saw a person drop off, move back to block Brian Burns. Now, I think that's not the play design because you would not be able to block Brian Burns if the protection call requires that you hesitate. That guy is very fast. It is his job to be fast. And it is really difficult moving backwards to catch up to somebody that fast when you don't get a head start, which is what tackles always get, right? So I'm not going to be too critical of Brian O'Neill there, even though on the broadcast and on film or whatever, it initially looks like that's his fault. But yeah, really weird circumstance there that kind of magnified the problems of the bad clock management. But it's the only touchdown they scored. So I don't know. So McCarthy overall, if we kind of excuse that play because of the injury on his hand, sure, he still was mostly fine, right? There was obviously that pick. That pick was not, I would argue, wholly his fault, right? It was one of the 3 drops. On 2 of the drops, you could argue that McCarthy did not play as well as he should have, right? So the Jefferson drop, I think, was probably going too fast and bounced out. And was it Naylor? I think it was the Naylor drop that was the pick. Yeah, Naylor.
That was Naylor, yes.
Yeah. That was not great ball placement. I would still argue, and this is kind of an issue that I've talked about in my pieces about McCarthy. Individually, those are more on the receiver than they are on the quarterback. The problem with McCarthy, and the reason, I shouldn't say the reason, one of the reasons he has such a high drop rate is because he is minimizing the success of his receivers with the ball velocity and ball placement. And so each individual ball, might be 60-40 on the receiver. But most quarterbacks in their drop situations are at a spot where it's like 80-20 on the receiver. And those additional percentages of poor ball placement or poor ball velocity or whatever, poor timing even, add up over time so that in the margins you get more drops from the same receiving core. I don't think that's the whole problem. I think Jefferson is playing worse than he's been, but I think that is a problem. This has nothing to do with the Addison drop, which I think was perfectly placed and was right there, and you just got to catch that, my guy. There are maybe not perfectly placed. There's maybe like a couple of better ways to, but like that is one where you're like 90-10 or 80-20, where that's just on the receiver, right? And so like that one kind of doesn't count. So his box score looks pretty bad, right? Because you've got, I think that one they went for it on fourth down and missed, I want to say. Anyway, he doesn't get a passing touchdown. They have to rely on Will Reichert to like kick a bunch, I guess. And then you've got an interception on the box score that is really not his fault. And so altogether, he had like I don't know if he finished the game with a 27 passer rating, but like when he threw the interception, he had like a 27 passer rating. Or right after he threw the interception, he had a 27 passer rating. And that clearly did not give us a good window into his actual level of play, which was fine. I would say that he played a lot better against the Commanders and the Cowboys. I would say a lot of the things that we're concerned about, like you mentioned, the over the middle of the field stuff, are still there. But this was he played with really good timing, right? Which is one of the concerns with him. It just not a ton of accuracy. The decision making was fine, but the timing was excellent compared to kind of what he's been doing. But it is all just throws to the outside or throws short. He did hit like deep, right? But the concern I have that I mentioned on the Squad Show again as like the nerdy number, I forget what nerdy stat of the week that was it, is that McCarthy over the past 3 weeks has thrown one pass in the intermediate range between the numbers. So that's 10 to 19 yards downfield. That's in the 26 yards that are between the numbers on the field. A pretty large box that the NFL average is around 11, 12%. And a lot of really good quarterbacks, and this isn't why they're good, but a lot of really good quarterbacks will throw around 15, 16%. And his is at 1.5% or 1.4%. And it is by far the lowest in the NFL over these past 3 weeks. The next lowest is like 4%. The lowest over the course of the season, besides McCarthy, is like Justin Fields. Not great company to keep. At also like 7%. Like it's like he is at such a low percentage over these past 3 games where he's actually, producing, where that's not really what a real NFL offense looks like. And that is one area where I'm like trying to point out, like, we're not getting the Jefferson product, even if we're getting the yardage that we expect of Jefferson, like 80 plus yards. This isn't the type of production we're used to seeing aside from that deep throw from Reisman, and that's an outside throw. Jefferson gets a ton of stuff over the middle, a ton. Like he's the king of these dig routes, and he works a lot on these over routes, which sometimes will hit you between the numbers. It's weird, and he played fine, and you've got some concerns. It wasn't as encouraging as the first 2 games, but if you flip the order, right, if you say it was the Giants game, then the Commanders game, then the Cowboys game, you're over the moon at this progression, because this is still better than everything but like maybe the Lions game this year. This is still better than almost every other game that he's had this year, aside from those 2. So fine is a really good spot to be.
If you just ignore how time works, it's great.
Yeah, no, if you kind of shed your preconceived notions of linear time, and embrace the time cube, you're in a really good spot, I think.
You should always embrace the time cube. I cannot believe. How many years have we been doing this show?
It's been so long since we did a time cube reference. Time is a cube with 4 sides.
Don't do yourself a favor. Don't Google time cube. So you mentioned Ryan Kelly. Let's talk about him because this is three concussions in 1 year.
Yeah. Okay. So I've mentioned on a couple of shows now that I dislike the Guardian caps. Now, I want to be clear that if something reduces concussion incidence, you are still going to get some moments in time where there is going to be a concussion. You're just going to reduce the amount of times concussions will occur. So this is not itself evidence that the Guardian cap does not work, right? But I have been talking to people who have studied this a lot. Actually, ever since I responded to someone else about Guardian caps, I think it's because the Packers were a lot of Guardian caps. I was responding to Justice. And that person had listened to when we talked about it, was it 2 years ago when Tua disclosed that he was not going to use the Guardian cap and people got mad at him?
Yeah.
I've been talking to this person since then about this, as well as a number of other people familiar with the data on this. And the data is not very good for Guardian caps. And a lot of the concerns that I had have been validated by people who study this professionally. So I feel good about it. But yeah, like Guardian caps increase the likelihood that there is friction in any contact between a helmet and any other fabric, which could, if someone else is wearing a Guardian cap, actually also be the other helmet. There is actually a reason that helmets have really low friction, and it's not necessarily because hard material tends to have lower friction. It is an intentional design. It is meant to, both because it's round, it creates glancing blows as opposed to direct hits, which is like something that like we've learned about armor since like the 5th century. But also decreases like the likelihood that the head is going to be pulled in any direction via its neck. Like that is an intentional design. I was talking to somebody who has worked in spring leagues, and that person's job included researching this. And they talked to like a handful of doctors, like 5 or 6 or 4, something like that. And the doctors were convinced that the hard shell helmet is an intentional feature to limit neck injuries. The Guardian cap eliminates that element of helmets, and so it can lead to an increase in the likelihood of neck injuries. So if the Guardian cap does not prevent concussions, it is not a net neutral, which is what a lot of people were saying when I first talked about how Tua was not necessarily wrong to turn down the Guardian cap. They said, well, what's the harm, right? Even if it does nothing or if the data is not very good, what's the harm? The harm is it could increase neck injuries. There's another harm here. It can reduce the collapsibility of helmets. We talked about this when we first talked about the Tua thing. Helmet manufacturers refuse to certify the Guardian cap, which is an addendum to helmets. It is sold as from a separate company that you add on to your helmet and wrap around your helmet. Now, helmet manufacturers refuse to certify it. Now, there's 2 reasons. One of them is very cynical. They want to avoid liability. And so if there's anything they can do at all to justify eliminating their own liability, then they'll do it. It doesn't matter if the Guardian cap works or not. They will refuse to certify it for those cynical reasons, right? But the second reason is because there aren't any studies on how the Guardian cap interacts with some of the design features of modern helmets. Some of those modern helmets are shaped in such particular ways. There's a strong debate among the VC's helmet, the VICIS helmets that are meant to be differently styled for each position based on the types of hits those positions will take the most often and where, right? And one of the features is kind of like in a crumple zone in a car, induced collapse in some elements in order to dissipate and spread the energy one of the other features is that it's a vented design, and that the force will turn into kinetic energy for the air and get out of the helmet. So all these helmets are vented, whereas old helmets weren't necessarily vented. If you restrict the airflow, you can eliminate the benefits of venting. And if you pre-distribute the force through the kind of the soft system that exists in the Guardian cap, you can maybe eliminate the collapsibility element of the helmet. And so you might be reducing the safety feature in the helmet that best prevents, a traumatic impact, right? Which CTE is not necessarily a product of individual concussions, right? It might be or individual big concussions. It might more likely be a product of a bunch of small concussions. But there's no evidence that the Guardian cap does anything about these kind of small micro hits that are not regarded as concussions. I shouldn't have even called them small concussions, but rather micro hits that are not diagnosed as concussions, because there's no data on that. They didn't test that. They tested that with a standard helmet with a force measurement. Like there's not like something inside the brain that they're measuring. They're measuring using kind of just traditional force metrics. And these are all studies performed by the company and not third party validated. I know a couple of college football programs have attempted to use their own university's research department to validate these as concussion prevention. And as far as I know, could be wrong, but as far as I know, no university that has not also been funded by the company that produces Guardian helmets has validated these. So I don't think the Guardian helmets or Guardian caps do anything and do increase the likelihood of injury. And I am worried because we're going to get a bunch of bad data about them, because the people who wear Guardian caps the most are people who have already suffered concussions. And the problem here is that there are two ways that this complicates the data. Both of them are in that these are people more likely to get concussions. One reason they're more likely to get concussions is because the people who've already received concussions are likely playing a style of football that will induce more concussions than other people who don't, right? Like people who lower their helmets into tackles or whatever, right? Like they're probably playing a style that creates more concussions. And so we're going to get bad data if we compare them against non-Guardian cap people. And then another element here is that if you've received a concussion, just from the biology of it, you are more likely to receive another concussion for the exact same type of hit than somebody receiving the same type of hit who has not received a concussion historically. And so it's going to be tough to actually break it down using on-field data. Now, both of these kind of move in the direction of we're going to see more concussions from people wearing Guardian caps rather than less. And so if we see less, that might be validating. But like maybe not. I don't know. It's really tough. You need to compare it against a sample of people who have had concussions and have not, had the Guardian and stuff like that, right? Maybe break it down by positions, because maybe you're more likely to wear a Guardian cap on the offensive line, and that there's a lot of ways that you need to be really careful about the data. But the testing data that is not produced and funded by the company itself does not do very much. And there's some concern that I hadn't realized after talking to some of these people that have been involved in testing these helmets for use in college or professional football games, is that at some positions it might be worse and cause concussions. Now, I don't think it's true for offensive linemen, which obviously that's what Ryan Kelly is, but the added weight from the Guardian caps could increase the likelihood of like whiplash or like forcing a helmet into the ground as they get tackled, right? So normally you try to keep your chin tucked into your neck as you get tackled to reduce the likelihood that your head is going to hit the turf. A little bit more added weight there might increase the likelihood that your head actually hits the turf. So it can potentially increase concussion incidents through the interaction with the helmet, through the added weight, and it might increase the likelihood of neck injuries through the added friction. And so these need to be really, really validated for reducing concussion, both micro concussions. Again, I don't think that's the term, but like these small hits that accumulate that are more conclusively-ish linked to CTE. I want to be careful because I don't think we actually have as conclusive evidence as we've been reporting. about the link between concussions and CTE, as well as these larger concussions, like the 3 that Ryan Kelly has suffered this year, or the many that Tua has suffered, or the many that Jackson Dart has probably suffered, but like hasn't, like that. Neither of those have been studied adequately in my mind. So all of that to say that I don't think Guardian caps are ethical, because I think they give players a false understanding of what the likelihood of their next concussion is going to be. And that is not informed consent, which is kind of the whole basis of the lawsuit that players had against the NFL, that the NFL had data that suggested that concussions pose a much larger long-term risk than people originally thought. And players may have changed their decision or may have negotiated differently about playing in the NFL or how long they were going to play in the NFL. Had they had access to that information. Now, I think something similar is happening where players are given a false understanding of how likely their next concussion is because they're wearing these Guardian caps, which is its own ethical problem. And then on top of that, there might be an ethical problem. And I think it's fair to say that there's an ethical problem with teams putting players in that position. Now, Brian Kelly's an adult. He obviously has the ability to consent to play, assuming that he knows what the real likelihood of a concussion is, even while wearing a Guardian cap. It is his decision to play, but I do think that teams can be held a little bit responsible for pressuring players or putting players in that position, even if players want to be put in that position. We think about this all the time where coaches pull players for their own good. And we think that that's a good thing because players are wired to play as often as possible. And so it can be up to coaches to, make sure that you're not putting Carson Wentz out there on a short week when his shoulder's not working or whatever. That is an element that people praise coaches for, making sure that players sit when they need to sit, even though those players want to play. This is very similar, and it's for kind of a long-term, very serious potential problem for Ryan Kelly. It sucks. I hate it. The on-field impact is tremendous. It's very clear how much better the offensive line is when he's actually playing, versus like if you've got a center who can block decently but can't snap, and Blake Brandel, or a center who can snap but can't block all that well, Michael Jerkins, right? And then you don't have the assistance with protections that McCarthy, again, no longer McCarthy, maybe Brosmer, might need to help kind of reduce the impact that blitzes have. So on field, it sucks, obviously, but like off field, humanistically, it's so annoying and it's so sad. And I don't love the Vikings approach here. I don't love the league's approach here. And I don't love the publicity that Guardian caps have, because I just think that there's a lot more faith in them than is warranted.
It is quite the marketable name, I will say that. Like, it does imply that you are being saved here.
Yeah, no, it really does. And like, if I'm starting a company that's making protective gear, Guardian is a great name to go by. But like, hopefully I would be ethical enough to make sure the product works. That would be kind of maybe the first order of business for this hypothetical company. So
hopefully you would be ethical enough. Hopefully you'd want to think.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, given the accusations levied against me about the ethics of IR-run companies, it seems like this one's a kind of a coin flip. But yeah, man, I don't love how all of this is played out.
Well, it's really unfortunate. I would not expect to see him for the rest of the year. I don't know that we will see him next year. It's
I think he's got to think about hanging it up, man.
Yeah. It's all speculation at this point, but you can bet that he's not going to be coming back this year. As for McCarthy, it looks like he's been ruled out for the Lions game, and I don't know if we would expect to see him for Green Bay either. This may just be the Brosmer show, which we can talk a little bit about because he was not throwing interceptions to everyone. He was not throwing picks that were being returned for touchdowns in the most hilarious fashion ever. He seemed to have calmed down slightly, and it looked almost serviceable out there. They weren't asking him to do a million things.
Yeah. Imagine he had 10 dropbacks, so it is a small sample, but those 10 dropbacks looked better than any collection of 10 dropbacks he had against Seattle, right? So like no matter what, this is an improvement. he didn't throw, like, again, not that many, but he didn't throw that many times past the 10-yard line. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. I want to say, I can just look at the numbers now. Actually, I have them in front of me.
Can I just say,
he had 10
good?
dropbacks.
Good. Maybe you don't have to. Maybe you just need
No.
your third string guy to just not attempt to throw bombs out there.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the facilities for that, right? He doesn't have the arm to do. I mean, he did get the one to Jefferson, right? The deep one, the 21-yarder to Jefferson, which was awesome. But for the most part, like that, and that's a rainbow, right? Like you're not going to get that throw available to you a bunch. Like he has to be pretty open, and the defense has to look a particular way. But yeah. So he had 10 dropbacks, 1 sack. So 6 of 9, nice. Of his dropbacks were 10 yards or fewer. His average depth of target was pretty low, 6.1. He had 20% of his, or 22% of his passes were behind the line of scrimmage. So in terms of evaluating kind of overall how he did, that's good context to have. It was 5.8 yards per attempt, but 0 interceptions. Really high completion rate, obviously, given kind of the depth of target that was happening there. But like 3 first downs on 9 passing attempts is much better than I think that we would have expected than what he had from Seattle. So he looked on time. He looked a little bit more comfortable. Now, Seattle rotated their defenders a lot more pre-snap. And it looked like, by my eye, I could be wrong, but by my eye, the Giants weren't. And I think that might be the difference, because that was what we talked about in the preseason. And then again, before the Seahawks game, that he looked really good in the preseason, was throwing with a lot of anticipation, but it might be because he had diagnosed what the opposing defense was doing pre-snap, and the defense wasn't doing anything fancy because it was the preseason. And so he was right. And so he was able to throw with a lot of anticipation when Seattle wasn't doing that. He looked like he had to figure stuff out post-snap, and it wasn't happening for him. So we'll see kind of how that goes to the Lions. They do rotate a decent amount. But this is unambiguously a huge improvement over, and it wasn't like he threw a pick and it was dropped. He didn't throw any interception-worthy throws, and he had a big-time throw, and he wasn't pressured. I guess his pressure rate was like 60%, so I guess it was often. But he didn't induce a lot of pressure because he's getting rid of the ball quickly, and he was fine when he was pressured. So. Yeah, this is a huge improvement. It's a small sample, but at least like it doesn't feel like you've got the worst quarterback in the NFL, which is definitely what it felt like against Seattle, even after you like mentally adjust for the fact that Seattle has like the best or second best defense in the league right now.
Yeah, it statistically and everything else, it felt like Josh Freeman 2.0, and we didn't need that.
Yeah.
Instead, what we got to see on the Giants' offensive side of the field, offensive side of the ball, was a Josh Freeman-esque experience. It was bad. Was it 4 yards or 6 yards he had in the first half? Dart could not do anything. This offense was stunted.
It was real bad. Actually, let me pull up the actual official, because I thought it was 6.
Yeah, continued dominance by a Flores defense. I think this is the 3rd game in a row against the Giants where they have not been able to score an offensive touchdown.
That sounds about right.
It's remarkable.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like different offensive coordinators, and they just like, they can't do it. They just can't do it. If you're wearing blue, it's just not happening. Let me see. We got Jackson Dart, 1 completion on 5 attempts, which, by the way, his only completion of the half was with 1:40 left or something like that remaining in the half. 1 completion for 2 yards, but he did take 6 yards worth of sacks. So he had -4 net passing yards in the first half, which, oops. The defense was absolutely, completely just crushing, right? Like it just demolished. A lot of that was a really, really high blitz rate. So the Vikings, I mean, whenever Brian Flores sees like a young quarterback, they're like, yeah, let's do this. So like 58, 59% blitz rate. I think in the first half it was up to like 67. and he did not do well against the blitzes. He had 2 turnover-worthy plays against the blitz. I think he averaged 1.1 yards per attempt against the blitz. He had 8 total yards, right? He did scramble, so he did have some rushing yardage in there. I forgot how much his scramble was for. Looks like he had 2 rushes for 7 yards. So one of the scrambles was against the blitz, one of them wasn't. So I'm going to guess he had like 4 yards. So with that in mind, he ended up with, was it 3 of his sacks occurred when blitzed? So he ended up with probably something like, you add the 12, probably something like 6 net passing yards against the blitz over the course of the game. Boy, that's rough. What's interesting is that I was kind of mixed about my feelings about how the defensive tackles performed. So, I think Jalen Redmond did a good job getting pressure. I think he got pushed around in the run game. I think Jonathan Allen did a pretty good job getting pressure. I think he got pushed around in the run game. Levi Drake Rodriguez and Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, I don't think did well at all in general. But Dallas Turner played really well. Andrew Van Ginkel played out of his mind, of course. Eric Wilson, as a pass rusher, was doing a ton of work. Harrison Smith got pressure, right? So their ability to generate pressure, even with the defensive tackles not doing the world's best job against the run, which the Giants were able to run the ball a little bit. The Vikings pressure production was really outstanding. Van Ginkel played a huge role in that. Redmond played a significant role. Turner played a huge role in that. It was a great blitz plan, and it did everything to make Jackson Dart look so helplessly confused. There was just like nothing he could really do about it.
Yeah, he looked like he was stumbling out of the blue tent.
Constantly. Although I think he never went into the tent.
He never did. I think you'd have to check this. This might be the first or second game of his this year that he didn't spend any time in the blue tent. But
I believe it was the second, because I believe the first time one of the Giants beat writers did tweet out, "This is the first game he's not actually."
He's
like, okay.
His style tends to lend himself to this. He's here for a good time, not here for a long time. Otherwise, there's not really much to tell. This was a game against a bad team. The Vikings are not as bad as their record would suggest, as long as the quarterback play is decent. So there's that. Right. Otherwise, not much to tell. Like this was a fun game, and Will Reichard was out there and proving why he should have gone to the Pro Bowl. So,
wait, did he not? I haven't checked anything, but did he not make it?
Not make it. No, he was
what?
Not. He did not make it. They sent Brandon Aubrey.
That's foul.
I thought.
I know. Most of the voting probably occurred before he missed those kicks against Minnesota. But like,
yep.
That first of all, that's why voting shouldn't happen until the end of the season. Are you kidding me? So, that's crazy, man. That's genuinely upsetting, actually. After all of my Will Reichard hating, let me celebrate when it's like Jesus, man. Let the guy win.
Nope. Even dressed up as a barbershop quartet member.
That's right. Oh, with and all 3 of them deserve.
Yeah, actually,
and Ryan Wright didn't make it. Right?
Solak wrote about how our punter deserved to go to the Pro Bowl. He was making a case for Ryan Wright.
I imagine the case is quite good. Ryan Wright is one of the best punters in the NFL right now. Which, again, what a shocker after last year. But like he's like the only punter with like one touchback. Like, and he's got like one of the longer average hang times, and he's got a low punt return percentage at like 40%. He's nailed 26 punts inside the 20. Like his inside the 20 to touchback ratio is incredible. I think like only Brian Angers is better, and Brian Angers has been shanking too many punts this year for it to count. So yeah, okay. Punters and kickers, man. What's going on? Anyway, yeah, I haven't checked the Pro Bowl anything, so I heard no Vikings made it. I did not process that it also included specialists. I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then you're like, yeah, but Arif, that includes Will Reichard and Ryan Wright. I'm like, oh,
nope,
that's a
this is absolutely unacceptable. We need to be able to buy a Will Reichard Pro Bowl jersey that is something that should be out there into this world.
Yeah.
Well,
oh my God, he's third in net punting. Sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Nope. Preaching to the choir, man. Preaching to the choir. Well, let's get into the interview that Arif conducted earlier today. This is with friend of the show, Jeremy Reisman. And they are going to discuss, once again, a Vikings-Lions game. And we'll be back on the other side for the mailbag.
Welcome to the super episode. If you're listening to this, you probably just listened to the Giants game recap. Thanks. I'm here with Jeremy Reisman with Pride of Detroit. He writes both for the site and also for their paid newsletter, which can you imagine subscribing to a paid newsletter? That's crazy. How you doing, Jeremy?
Great. I'm enjoying capitalism in all of its forms. It's that time of year.
Yeah. Matthew Collar, who runs the Purple Insider Substack, keeps on telling me like, "Hey, Arif, you should run like promotions for like Black Friday and Christmas and stuff like that." I'm like, "That sounds like a good idea," and then I never do it. So I'm an outstanding businessman, is what I'm getting across.
You believe in it, you just don't act on it,
right? Yeah. Which that's the important part, is what's in your heart.
Oh,
so we're here to preview a Lions game. It sounds like Lions fans are also similarly unenthused about the game on Christmas. Is that correct?
That's true. Our team isn't in the midst of a 3-game winning streak, but no.
You got to remember that
not a lot of excitement.
The second game of the Vikings winning streak was preceded by learning that they were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So
yes. And so, technically the Lions are not eliminated.
You said what, like a 7% chance if they win?
7% chance. They need to win out, and they need the Packers to lose out, which is, it's not 100. It would require the Vikings to beat the Packers. I don't know how likely you think that's going to happen.
Again, it depends on if it's meaningful for the Packers, right? So in a world where the Lions win this game and the Packers lose, like in a world where the Packers have to win to get in, I'd say it's pretty unlikely, but I wouldn't say it's impossible because it is very funny, right?
Yeah. But I don't know, just the way that Steelers game played out on Sunday, where...
Yeah, what was that about, man?
Yeah, I don't know. The team seems to have completely lost its identity. They can't stop the run in these past 2 games. It just got absolutely throttled by both the Rams and the Seahawks and the Steelers. Rams made sense. That team's a behemoth. Their offense is way better than any other offense.
So can't stop the run, can't run the ball.
Yeah.
Both running backs were outrun by Jonnu Smith.
Right.
A tight end for people who are unfamiliar.
Yeah. Yes. And so I think just the drasticness of that turnaround, and it hasn't been that way all season, but it hasn't been good most of the season. So to see it like at its extreme in December, where the Lions are usually playing their best football, is pretty disheartening. And I think a lot of people are hoping for some kind of, I wouldn't say major changes, but like significant looking in the mirror and trying to figure out what went wrong this year.
Okay, well, let's go through it, position by position.
Sure.
Jared Goff, who has traditionally had the answers to the Brian Flores defense, did not do as well this past matchup. The Brian Flores defense does, of course, change every year in some pretty significant ways, but ideologically, it's very similar every single year. So it was a little bit surprising to see this guy, I'm not going to say fold or crumble, but just not beat it to death. It's maybe the one that it was a little bit of a surprise, but also Goff isn't having the year that he's had over the past couple of years, right? Like, obviously not his worst year in a Lions uniform. There was kind of like 1 year before things got started, right? But it feels like a pretty disappointing year, right?
Yeah. It's so weird because if you were to just be kind of a box score scout and things like that, nothing looks completely out of the ordinary for the Lions.
Pretty high touchdown rate, the lowest interception rate of his career, right? Like,
The team doesn't turn the ball over. They're the second highest scoring offense. Like, I think they're running for like 4.8 or 4.9 yards a carry as a team. But it's just like, that is not all that seems to tell lies.
It's all fake.
Like, if you just watch the team week to week, early on, they beat the crap out of some bad teams, and they'll do that. They'll beat up on really, really bad defenses, right? They did it to Dallas a few weeks ago, and they'll just crush them. They'll score 38, 40 points, and the first thing that comes to mind, and I feel like every time I join your podcast, we use the word merchant about 80 times, and I'm about to go there again, but it feels like they're a bad defense merchant. Like they just beat up on really bad defenses, and they suck against good ones. Like it's not that complicated, and certainly they're not the only team to be able to do those things, but they're really, really good against bad defense, against bad defense, and then like they are just a run of the mill kind of crappy offense when they go up against teams that know how to play football.
So this does create a problem, because looking at the Vikings roster and you evaluate each player maybe individually, you would say, well, enough of this team doesn't know how to play football. And then you look at the Vikings defensive results, you're like, well, okay, right. Yeah, they're pretty good. Again, the Brian Flores defense is such a unique problem to kind of tackle from a preview perspective, because there's not another defense that you can look at to see how a quarterback performed again. Like even other high blitzing defenses like the Falcons or the Broncos, like that's not going to give you many clues. So all we have is, how Jared Goff did earlier this year, which, 2 touchdowns, 284 yards. You're not mad at it, but you're not impressed by it like the same way that you were in previous years. The guy, I think it was the most sacks he took in a game this year, right? So what do we think when we look at that Brian Flores defense and the way that Goff and the Lions offense interacts with it?
Well, I think when I went into that game, and I'm pretty sure we talked about it too, is my one question was how much of Jared Goff's success versus Brian Flores was him? How much of it was Frank Ragnow? Because Frank Ragnow is a guy who, really handled a lot of the protection stuff. Especially early in Goff's career in Detroit, because it's something he was really good at. It's something that made him who he was outside of just like the outstanding.
So Goff is a Ragnow merchant. Got it.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, I think some of it is just, there are so many young pieces on that offensive line, right? I'm trying to remember who exactly was playing in that particular game, because much like the Vikings, the Lions have gone through quite a bit of offensive line turmoil. I believe that's the game that Christian Mahogany, their starting left tackle, broke his leg. He's back and kind of playing on it.
What do you mean
still.
He's back? What in the world? What?
He played last game, and like I wasn't in the locker room, but I heard other people in the locker room saying like that dude is limping like crazy. He's going through so much pain right now to play in.
Well, if he could do it, why can't Ragnow do it?
Well,
that's just a full muscle tear.
Versus a grade 3 tear. A grade 3 bone tear. That's what that is.
A grade 3 bone tear.
But like, okay, so it's his second season. He's a 6th round pick. Played really well in the 2 or 3 games he played his rookie season. Has not lived up to that this year. Miles Frazier has been playing a little bit as a rookie.
5th round pick. Wow.
Yeah, they've rotated him in the last 3 or 4 games just to like get him reps, which seems like a weird thing to do when you're in the middle of a playoff race. Like, oh, let's prepare for the future right now.
I want to get this out of the way real quick. His parents know about the show Frasier, right? Like,
for some reason, I have never put that together, that there's a character named Miles and a character named Frasier, and he's both.
It's Niles Frasier, right?
Oh, you're right.
So it's like one letter off.
Yes.
And it is
very close.
And like, I don't know.
I'll have to ask him.
There's no way he hasn't been asked. But yeah, sorry. It's just like my brain was like, well, hold on. There's something going on here.
Right. And anyways, Graham Glasgow's been playing center. He's a veteran, but he's, twilight of his career. I think, the mental aspect of it is not too big of a step back from Frank, but physically speaking, just not there. And then, you have a rookie at right guard too. So it's just like a bunch of young pieces together. The chemistry was not there early in the season. It's still not probably where I think the Lions expected it to be. And so when you throw something complicated in front of those guys, they get confused. And that's what I think we saw in that game.
Fantastic. That's good news. And then of course you've got tight end / tackle Penei Sewell.
Yes.
Who's outstanding. I almost voted him for MVP last year. Voted. I don't have a vote. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have your own voting system.
Right, yeah. Well, we're going to incorporate some of the other writers, so we may not see as many offensive tackles get MVP votes this year. Okay, so a lot of times over the past couple of years when people have talked about the Lions offense, they focused a lot on the running game, which certainly exists. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is a person who occupies space and matter. Same with David Montgomery, but isn't doing anything. If I'm getting that correct, right? They combined for 16 rushing yards last, which is not to say Jahmyr Gibbs isn't doing anything. He caught 10 passes last week, but the running game is just not, like you mentioned, 4.9 yards a carry. But when I'm watching it, it doesn't feel like a 4.9 yards per carry team.
No, it's all because of explosive plays. And that's, that's the benefit of drafting a Jahmyr Gibbs. That's the benefit of having him. And obviously you have to have good blocking on those big plays for them to work. But, even if you have 2, 3, 4 more 40-yard rushes than every team, that doesn't mean you have a good rushing attack in the line. Just they don't. A lot of it is the same things I was just talking about with the offensive line, where they're just not getting their blocking assignments done. There's not chemistry in terms of getting to the second level and making sure the first level is walled off first. And then, this past game against the Steelers, there were just like significant schematic mistakes where, you're leaving the backside edge unblocked and that guy is crashing down and hitting Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield before he even, takes his second step after grabbing the ball. So it's a lot of things. I think with seeing the way that Ben Johnson has worked magic with the running game in Chicago, you kind of wonder how much of the schematic issues, arrived at the minute he walked out the door. But you also combine that with a really young offensive line. You combine that with the first time play caller or I guess not first time, but who was, first time in 8 years play caller in John Morton and now Dan Campbell. And you're left with an offensive identity that doesn't look anything like it did last year. I think they've had to scale back some of the complexity, some of the variance that they had in the running game. That's something that, people always pointed to with the Lions running games, how they could run pretty much any style, any scheme. And they did run all of that under Ben Johnson. And I feel like they felt the need they had to scale that back either because of the coaching or because of, the personnel. And it's been less varied. It's been more predictable and it's been less effective. And, I don't want to overstate how bad it is because, like you said, they're 4.9 a carry. You're getting some of these explosive which are game changing plays, but I'm kind of stuck on the 40% success rate, which is 21st in the league, and that's it's such a far cry from where they were in the past 2-3 years here.
Okay, that's good to hear. I love that. What does the running game kind of, like you mentioned, like they used to be able to run any scheme, with the ability to kind of, if they're going to stick with like one kind of element, and it doesn't have to be all inside zone or whatever, it could just be like, hey, they tend to use toss plays a lot, or hey, they tend to run to the outside a lot. Like, what is it about the running game that they seem to at least perform the best at, and what should the Vikings defense be watching out for, at least in that respect?
I think their big hitting plays were mostly duo concepts, because I think if you just kind of like line those guys up, they're maulers in the run game. That's kind of, the specialty when they're looking for guys in the draft, and guys that they do pick out in the draft, they're guys that can just like road grade in the run game. And for some reason, it feels like they've tried to get outside of that. They've tried to pull, they've tried to do tosses, and none of that sort of stuff seems to work. But if you just kind of like run it up the gut, and maybe they've been scared to because they've gone against some good defensive interiors the last few weeks.
Oh yeah, don't worry about it.
And just gone away from them. But yeah, no, I feel like they're at their best when they are just kind of running up the gut. And a big talking point in the past few weeks has just been the limited use of David Montgomery, and part of that is game script has just not treated them well in the second half. Mm-hmm. I think they've run a total of 11 offensive plays in the third quarter in the past 2 games combined. Because the defense can't get off the field. And against the Rams, it was 3 straight 3-and-outs. One of those being in the 9th play of that being in the fourth quarter. And then it was literally I almost said the Jets because I was thinking Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers, like 10 play drive, fumble in the red zone, Lions immediately go 3 and out and get safetied. And then it's another like 13 play drive from the Steelers that goes all the way into the fourth quarter. And so, yeah, by the time, they get into the fourth quarter, they're down 2 scores in both of those games and basically abandon the run. And I do feel like they would benefit from getting David Montgomery more involved and kind of going back to that gritty, grinded out, middle of the field type of run style that has seen a lot of success in the past and worn down defenses in the past, but game script just hasn't allowed them to continue to do that into the second half in a lot of these games. I mean, it turns out you can do that a lot more when you're winning, when you're 15-2 and holding leads for most games.
Right.
When you're playing from behind, suddenly a guy like David Montgomery becomes a little less valuable to you.
Okay. Should I worry about these tight ends? Is Shane Zylstra gonna?
Nope.
Okay, great.
No,
great.
Not at all. 0%.
Awesome. Let us talk about these receivers. You've got top 50 receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. What? That's not wrong. Am I wrong?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Max Brosmer might be a top 50 quarterback.
There's like 70 quarterbacks in the NFL, right? And then, as we've learned, you can just pull a guy just out of nowhere, just he hasn't played for 5 years, and then he'll also be better. So
that's true.
Yeah, you've got top blank receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know how good either of these guys are, so I'm going to lean on you for this one.
Sure.
Tasla and Jamison Williams. What do we think they are in terms of their? First of all, you can describe their play style. We just want to know that. But like, second, like how quality are they?
I think Jamison Williams is honestly really coming into his own, and I was a pretty big skeptic. His first, what are we into year 4 of his career already? I think we are. Over the first 3 years, like I didn't think it was ever really going to come together because he had kind of just been like a deep shot artist, utilizing his speed as he did at Alabama. And it didn't seem like there was any nuance to his route running. It didn't seem like he was great with details. Like, he's a hard worker. He'll go out there and block his ass off too. But it just felt like the nuances of the game, his footwork, his chemistry with Jared Goff were just like, it wasn't developing in the first 2 years. Started to see some flashes last year. And now he seems like, I'm not going to say like a full-fledged, full route tree kind of guy, but he is running a lot more crossing routes. He's running some comeback routes. And when you have that sort of speed, like, that's a nice asset to have. And that chemistry, we were talking on my podcast about utilizing the middle of the field and how that requires precision and from the quarterback, it requires precision from the wide receivers. That just like, it was something that I didn't think was ever going to develop with those two. And now they're doing it, and it's resulted in a fair amount of explosive plays. And I just think he's a really, really good number 2 receiver, when I thought his ceiling might be Deshaun Jackson, just like an explosive play every 2 games that, 70-yard touchdown. You'll get one of those every now and then.
Deshaun Jackson was like a multiple Pro Bowler. So what do you mean I thought his ceiling would only be Deshaun Jackson?
Well, I just mean in terms of like his style of play. Like Deshaun Jackson's not running a lot of curls. And half of those Pro Bowls were what, like punt returner?
No, he was good. Come on, let's not do this. On the day he announces his extension as head coach of Delaware State, you do this to him.
Wow, I didn't realize you were on the Delaware State beat.
No, so I'm in a group chat with somebody who covers the Eagles who broke the story, and I was like, oh, he's a head coach. That's pretty cool. Okay, Deshaun Jackson has like 3 Pro Bowls. That maybe I was overselling him a little bit. But he has.
J-Mo's a fourth alternate this year, so who knows?
He has 4 1,000-yard seasons and 6 900+ yard seasons. So put some respect.
J-Mo's about to have his second, I think.
Okay. Maybe I was going a little bit hard in favor of like known anti-Semite Deshaun Jackson. I should probably walk that one back a little bit.
He already hit the 1,000-yard mark this season. He is at two back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons.
Okay. So his ceiling is Deshaun Jackson, but not the Deshaun Jackson in my brain, the Deshaun Jackson who actually played. Got it. But he has improved, and he's playing a much more versatile role.
Yes, very much so. And then Tasla, I mean,
he just seems like a circus catch merchant.
Yes. He has a nickname in the beat room as Dude Perfect.
Oh, that's good.
That's who he is. And I mean, he looks it too. He very much looks like a Dude Perfect kind of guy. He's another guy that like, it just feels like he doesn't know the nuances of route running. He played his college career almost exclusively in the slot. So in terms of like press, he's still learning how to get off that. They'll try to use him a little bit more in the red zone than between the numbers, but he is coming off his most productive game in terms of, I think he had 5 catches, which is, I don't know if he'd had more than 2 in a single game before that. So they're trying to get him more involved. But great hands, size and speed. So they've tried a couple, jump balls to him in the end zone, in the red zone. One, he just couldn't get off press. And so he never, the ball wasn't anywhere near him. Yeah. But I think that was something that they didn't expect a ton of in year 1. And they're hoping to get a lot more in year 2 or 3 because they traded 2 third-round picks to get him. So they guess they have high hopes for him.
Okay. He was such an interesting pick, right? Because he's super athlete. But obviously the Lions care a lot about the consensus board. They've demonstrated their care and attention to that over the years. But he was,
and every time they strayed from it, it's worked out great.
Yeah, it's been perfect. And that was a huge consensus board. Like, what is going on here? How do we feel about the fact that it's pronounced Tesla?
I like it because it makes me not say Tesla,
right? Personally, yeah.
Although I'll be honest, an incredible amount of people still call him that, anyways, including a lot of coaches. And I'm like, you guys do know that's not his name, right?
I mean, coaches will just call people by their numbers, right? They don't care.
That's true. I guess that's true.
And like, if you like correct them, they're like, "Well, that's his nickname now. We're just calling him Tesla." And it's like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But it's also led to some other nicknames. Coleslaw is the easy one, and I think the justification there is because he's white and you don't want to leave him out open or something. I don't know.
Oh no, I like that actually.
Yeah.
There's like a couple of things here that work. He looks like he's made of mayonnaise. Yeah, no, that works. And I'm not a huge fan of coleslaw, so it's perfect actually for me.
Okay, yeah.
So
I'm with you too.
When we look at how the Lions have like organized and designed this passing offense, both with John Morton and without, Morton's still there, but like, you know what I mean? In both play calling eras of the year, what does it look like and how is it different than the Ben Johnson offense?
I think in general, most of the overlying concepts are the same. I think, like I said, there's a little less variance when it comes to the run game. The passing game, they're still trying to do all the things that they were doing, which is a bunch of over the middle stuff, a lot of crossing routes, a lot of play action, a lot of, pre-snap motion, that sort of stuff. I think some of it has just been less effective because the pass protection hasn't been as good this year. There has been bumps in the road in terms of that third receiver, right? And I think they're also looking for some answers when it comes to life without Sam Laporta. They're on tight end 3, 4, and 5 essentially at this point. So some of Goff's safety valves have been gone. But they also use Jahmyr Gibbs a lot more out wide now. And he's become kind of like the extra safety valve where he probably is getting, 4 or 5 catches a game. With Tesla in the game, without him, it feels like it's jumped to 8, 9, or 10 per game. I think generally it doesn't look all that different. It's just a less efficient version of it. That's also, missing a couple key parts when it comes to the tight end room, the offensive line. And then, I do think they've been hurt a little bit by not having their prototypical X receiver that they've had, whether it's been, Josh Reynolds early on or Tim Patrick last year. Tesla hasn't really picked up that slack there yet. So, I still think the passing offense is generally in a good spot. But certainly it's taken maybe a half step back from last year.
Okay. And you're uncomfortable with the matchup the passing game has primarily because of the pressure plan that Brian Flores. Yeah. Okay. What is kind of the general response to, because like a lot of offenses, they do hot routes over the middle, usually with the tight end, but without a tight end. It feels rough, right. But like Ahmad-Ra St. Brown also feels like the kind of receiver you can just trust with that. So like, what is the approach?
Yeah. Well, I think in the previous game, it was keep Jahmyr Gibbs in and try to have him block, and that was an absolute disaster. So I'm hoping there's a different game plan this week.
I think you got to try. You can't give up. This is not a team with a lot of quit in it, right? You can't.
Just going to admit defeat. No, I think they've developed a little bit more like quick passing offense type of stuff. Wide receiver screens. Like I said, they will line up Gibbs out on the outside. They've done that a little bit more since the Vikings game because obviously the Laporta injury happened after that. But I mean, there hasn't been a lot of great answers to that. But I think in general, it's just more get the ball out quicker. That's something Jared Goff does generally anyways. But I think it might be something they do even more in this one. But when you do that, you always have to worry about the guys that drop into coverage on that defensive front. And Goff has got a few times by that, both against Minnesota and some other teams too. So it's a good question. They haven't done as good a job utilizing the middle of the field without Laporta. And so that is something they're still looking at. Zylstra got a little bit more involved this past week. I know I just said you don't have to worry about any of those guys.
You just lied to me.
Well, here's the thing. I've tried to erase that Pittsburgh game from my mind as much already, even though it's 3 games old or whatever, 3 days old. Anthony Firkser oddly caught 4 passes for 40 yards, and I can't tell you a thing about Anthony Firkser.
I feel like my memory says he played for the Dolphins at one point. Okay, I just looked it up. He did not. I was like, that's the Dolphins guy, right? Nope.
No.
We got Detroit elevated from the practice squad on November 25th. Before that was on Kansas City's team, was activated 3 times off the practice squad. Was on the Jets, was activated twice from the practice squad, then signed from the practice squad. Then Detroit again before that, activated 3 times from the practice squad, but also waived once. Then the Falcons. This guy loves to be activated from the practice squad. Oh my God. He was on the Patriots.
All-time scout team player.
Yeah, for sure. He was on the Patriots for 3 months, and then I guess he was cut before training camp. That's really cool. He is from Harvard, so clearly what this guy is doing is maximizing value. You don't want to get so good that you get CTE from playing in games, but you want to be good enough that you're always on a team. This guy's got it.
Headsy. That's the one thing I'll say about Headsy.
Gotta watch out for him, dude. He's a 6'1" tight end that's been in the NFL for years.
He's 30, yeah.
Okay, incredible. I'm a huge Anthony Firkser fan. That's great. Okay, so Anthony Firkser got what you said, 3 receptions. Shane Zylstra got involved somehow.
Yeah, 4 for 40 for Firkser. Don't disrespect the man.
4. Okay, 4 for 40.
4 for 40.
The next round of ESPN documentaries.
That's right, 4 for 40.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the defense. You've got Aiden Hutchinson and some guys. No, I mean, okay, mm-hmm. I do like the defensive line. Maybe not Marcus Davenport as much, but when he's healthy, he's not the worst player in the world. But you've got Aiden Hutchinson. Everyone loves him. He's in commercials now.
Yeah.
DJ Reader, great. I've always loved him, but he was pretty injury prone. Ali McNeil, unfortunate. He did return from injury. That's too bad. Tyleik Williams, first round pick. I don't know anything about him if he's any good. Roy Lopez, great name if you're into chess. Al-Qadim Muhammad, great name just in general.
Yeah.
What do we think?
Man, it's what's frustrating about that unit is that it feels like they've built it to stop the run. While everyone was screaming for them to get another edge rusher, get another pass rusher, they draft Tyleik Williams, who is very much a run stopper first. And I don't know if there's anything in there as a pass rusher. The Lions insist that they think there will be. There isn't right now. And then they go out and get Roy Lopez, who's, started 16 games for the Cardinals as a nose tackle when you already had DJ Reader on the roster and Ali McNeil. Who,
they care about having too many nose tackles. This is the comment I make every year when we do this preview. It's like, oh, hey, they got 6 nose tackles. What's up with that?
Yeah. Right. And they're coming off back-to-back games where they've given over 200 rushing yards. So that's working out well. No, I mean, listen, I do think a lot of those guys are good players. Tyleek is just coming into his own a little bit. I think he's fine as a run defender, not good as a pass rusher. Aleem, since returning from his torn ACL, has been mostly a non-factor.
That's too bad, actually. I did like him a lot, despite what I just said.
His first game back, he immediately, one of his very first plays, he drove the center back 10 yards right into the quarterback. And that feels like the last time he got a pressure.
No.
And he's been pushed around in the run game too, which is just he's lost something, and you hope maybe just an off season of being away from that injury, being away from rehab and prehab makes him a better football player. But he's kind of a shell of himself right now. DJ Reader, again, fine. This team was actually early in the season the best team in short yardage situations, and that has kind of fallen off a cliff. Actually, I think if you look at power success rate that FTN has, I think they're still top 3, but that's mostly being carried by the early season when they stopped the tush push 8 times and were dominant against the Ravens and their rushing attack early in the season, but they're getting pushed around right now, which is a super bummer. And Aiden Hutchinson's been fine, not outstanding, but fine. There is a little bit of a narrative going around that last year, when he was on his hot streak and the year before, he went up against an inordinate amount of backup offensive tackles. Backup offensive tackle merchant, if you want to go there.
Let's go.
No, but he's generally been good, but there's been gaps of did Aiden Hutchinson do anything today? No. Oh, that's weird. And then, Marcus Davenport finally is back from a shoulder injury. He left briefly with a shoulder injury last game, which has me concerned that it's not completely over. And he missed, 9 games in between. Hasn't really done much since he's returned either. And then Al-Qadim Muhammad has 9 sacks. Actually kind of a fun, really good player to watch. He doesn't provide much in run defense, which is why he doesn't play a ton. He'll probably play 20-ish snaps a game. But he's pretty quick. I love his bull rush. He'll one arm a guy into the quarterback at least once a game, and it's really fun to watch. But because he provides nothing in the run game, the Lions don't love him. So
okay,
it's kind of a bummer.
That's sure. I guess I'm not mad about that. All right, so I was going to say, speaking of shells of their former selves, but I don't think that effectively characterizes Alex Anzalone. That's wrong. I do like him a lot, but I don't feel like he is the guy he was 2 years ago. Am I wrong about that?
I would even say probably last year. I thought he was still playing at a pretty high level last year. He's still probably their best cover linebacker, but there's been more lapses. There's been more showing of his age a little bit. I don't know if you saw the play last week with Kenneth Gainwell, where Rodgers threw one of it, the 1 or 2 deep passes he throws every game, and it was to Gainwell down the sidelines with 5 seconds left in the first half. Alex Anzalone in phase with him, tackles him to the ground before their ball arrives. Gainwell catches it while on the ground, gets up and runs it in for a touchdown.
Oh, that was him. Okay.
Yeah. That kind of describes the Alex Anzalone experience right now. He can kind of keep up with backs if they're running, wheel routes or whatever. But he'll also occasionally fall flat on his face and listen, that was a very fluky play. I'm not gonna bury him for it.
That was,
but and that felt like the turning point of the game. Anyways, I think Alex Anzalone is certainly not at his peak. I still think he's an above average player, if not good player. But he is on the last year of his contract, and there is a very strong feeling that his days are numbered here in Detroit, just because, there were contract talks at the beginning of the season. He was not shy about going public with it either. And the Lions just all right, we'll throw you a couple more million this year, but that's it. So I think they're planning on moving on there, and it is probably time, especially since the budget's a little bit tighter with all these young players getting big extensions in Detroit. But there is still something a little bit sad about that, because I don't think there's a person on the field that knows the defense better than him. And so that trickles down to making sure everyone's in the right spot and communicating well. But seems like a lot of those duties are getting handed to first-time Pro Bowler Jack Campbell.
Did that happen? Is that
happened? That's real.
Do we feel like that
was earned?
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Like I think he has taken a really I think he's arguably. I'm saying this a little bit out of my own element because I can't pretend to tell you how all 90 some linebackers are playing in the league. Right. But I think he is one of the best run defending linebackers in the league. I think his instincts are excellent. His tackling is very good. His coverage isn't great. But he's also he's added a little bit of pass rush juice to his arsenal this year. 5 sacks on the season. I think he's third in tackles, which I understand is not the most, telling statistic. It's probably more telling for a linebacker than it is, say, a corner. But he has certainly taken a year 3 jump here, and it feels like he is playing extremely fast and, again, has some of that knowledge of the defense that I think is taking the mantle of essentially leader, captain of the defense. And I think it was very much warranted this year, getting his first Pro Bowl. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the All-Pro conversation either.
Wow. All right. I've missed a lot. And Derek Barnes has improved, it seems like. No? It feels like.
I don't know.
No? Okay.
They were so high on Derek Barnes. They gave him an extension. They built out this Sam linebacker role for him to kind of utilize some of the pass rushing stuff he did at Purdue, while also kind of maintaining some of the off-ball stuff that he learned once he landed in Detroit. And I don't see it with the pass rush stuff. I don't feel like he's much of an impact there when he's going up against guys 60, 70 pounds more. I don't think he's that dynamic, honestly. I think he's just he's like a C+ at everything. Okay, fine.
That does
you're
feel
okay
like
at that.
Improvement.
Okay at
Sorry, he was not that great at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, certainly if you're talking about when he came into league, has he improved from that? Yeah, sure. But has he grown into the role that earned him the 3-year extension that he got? No. I think that might be, in retrospect, a mistake. And to be clear, he is also coming off a major injury from last year too. So there could be that, I do think there is something to the year after an injury. A lot of players will say even that first year when I'm back on the field, I didn't feel like myself. It was really until the year after that where I started playing like myself. And so maybe you can use some of that as an excuse with Derek Barnes, but we never really saw it. They were just everything after they gave him that extension. They're oh my gosh, just wait until you guys see. We're really, really excited about this player. And then we didn't get to see because he got injured two games into the season last year.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that sucks, but yeah. All right. So this secondary has, Jalen Mills is still in the league. All right.
To be fair, we have not seen him play defense yet for the Lions.
Okay.
It hasn't quite gotten to that point.
Jalen Mills' friend, Devontae Maddox, also on the roster.
Yes.
Thomas Harper, who I vaguely remember, I think from the Raiders.
That's right. Yeah.
And Daniel Thomas, which is a name.
Special teamer.
Okay, great. So Kirby Joseph injured, Brian Branch injured again. I guess Kirby Joseph again. Right? Yeah. This isn't his first. So how have their respective injuries impacted the construction of the defense and defensive design?
Yeah. They still play a lot of single high. I think they're starting to veer a little bit more into cover 2 because they don't have a Brian Branch. Avonte Maddox is not Brian Branch. Thomas Harper, not Brian Branch. So they're a little bit still kind of figuring things out. I think what's really given them a lot of trouble all year is just they've been giving up explosive play after explosive play in the passing game. And I feel like they finally had enough in these past couple of weeks where they're okay, we got to help our outside corners a little bit. Some of that has been with safety. Some of that has been lightening up the box. And if you have even a little bit of a decent memory, you might remember how I told you that the past 2 teams have run for over 200 yards on this defense. And I think part of that is okay, let's try to plug this hole of explosive plays through the air. Oops, here comes another hole in the boat. It's our crappy run defense that is now somehow even worse. And so, some of that is safety related. I think the secondary in general has just been not very good at gap discipline. And I think it's been even more confusing the past 2 weeks just because they faced a ton of 13 personnel, and you generally just don't do that a lot. And you went up against the number 1 13 personnel team against the Rams, then the number 2 13 personnel team against the Steelers this past week. And they did not have an answer for that, which moderately surprising considering the Lions play base more than any other team. They have 7-man fronts. They have 3 linebackers on the field. You'd think maybe that would be a better matchup than most teams, but it wasn't. And I blame a lot of it on that secondary not filling the right gaps. It led to a bunch of explosive plays over the past 2 weeks. And yeah, I think that's where you've really missed Kirby Joseph, really missed Brian Branch, particularly Brian Branch, just because I think he's been phenomenal in terms of run support. Oddly enough, like Avonte Maddox was having a really good 2 or 3 game streak playing safety while Kirby Joseph was out. That kind of fell back to reality this past week against the Steelers. So not feeling great about that duo back there.
Cool. Sorry, just like every time you respond, I'm just like, oh, okay, great. That's because you got to understand my problem here, Jeremy. The Vikings can't do anything about any of the stuff that you're saying, right? So my lack of enthusiasm is more like, okay, what's Reisman going to do about that? Like, okay, right. Cool, great. I'm sure Justin Jefferson will be wide open. Okay, but like speaking of, like you mentioned on your podcast that Amik Robertson is going to relish this matchup against Justin Jefferson because Amik Robertson's confidence. So like we both know defensive backs. We both know that they might be the most confident people in a sport full of confident people. And Amik Robertson, to me, to my recollection of who he was as a college player, how he's played in the NFL, is even more confident than he's more confident than Sauce Gardner, right? Like that's my take on this guy. He is like 5'2" and plays like he's 6'2", right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. And it's interesting because like he's actually kind of like a very soft spoken isn't the right word. He's more just like quiet tone, but like he still speaks with confidence. And also just like the super like nicest guy. I think he won the Good Guy Media Award, which we give to the guy who just like talks after every game and will answer, any kind of questions, whether you want to get like super specific and schematic, he'll answer those, or just, talk about anything and he'll answer it. He probably would have won it again if we were being honest and not just like spreading the love a little bit. Mm-hmm. But he certainly relishes for games like this. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's been his best year. It hasn't. It has been great. But, the Lions put a lot of pressure on their outside corners with the amount of man that they play with, in general, only playing single high. A lot of those guys are left on an island for most of the game, and him and DJ Reed just have not, lived up to the moment. I would say DJ Reed has been not quite a disaster, but not too far from a disaster of a signing. Certainly a big step back from Carlton Davis, who they moved on from. They kind of went the cheaper route with DJ Reed. And listen, I like DJ Reed as a player. I think at some point he's going to get it together, but he suffered a hamstring injury, I want to say week 4 or week 5, and missed, I feel like it was 8 or 9 weeks. And since he's been back, it just hasn't been the same. So, I mean, listen, Amik, there's lore and I don't know if it's accurate or not, but like that week 18 game, the lore is that he shut down Justin Jefferson in that game. And I know that's not completely true with the amount of help that they got, but like, that's what Amik is always going to be remembered for in Detroit. I legitimately feel that way. And like I said, I don't think it's 100% true, and no one ever really shuts him down. Like I understand he's that big of a talent, and I'm not trying to say that's
the narrative on Amik.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes. 100%.
What do we think about Rockison and DJ Reed? DJ Reed felt like a coup of a signing, and like in a year that feels fairly lost for Lions fans. I haven't actually heard that much about DJ Reed. Was that a good signing?
Like I said, I liked it at the time. I really did. And I still think he can be a really good man corner, but I don't know if it's the hamstring injury that had him out. I mean, to be clear, that hamstring injury was like a major one. I think there was initial reports out there that they expected it to be season ending, and then it turned out, it was just 2 months worth of sideline to calm it down. But he has not been good since. I feel like they got him on a good deal. And like I said, I'm hoping and thinking he can probably turn it around, but it's been a rough go this season. And they're, since he's been back, they've also gone through like a gauntlet of receivers. They in a 3-game stretch, they went from Packers to Cowboys to Rams, 3 of the best passing offenses by most, efficiency metrics. And obviously some good receiving cores, maybe Packers excluded, depending on your thought of their, I don't even know how to describe the Packers receiving core, and who knows who was actually playing in that game versus
the cadre of wide receiver twos. Yeah, no,
that's right.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been great easy matchups for the guy, but I just feel like he's better than he's looked this year. So okay. I'm trying not to be too judgmental of the contract of the decision to go with him over Carlton Davis, but it hasn't been great. Rock's been, listen, Rock entered this year as CB6. Now he's essentially when they go to nickel looks, he's a starter because they'll kick Amik in for nickel, and then Rock will come out on the outside. And he's been as good as you could expect a CB6 to be, which is, some games will be like, oh, dang, you can still play. And then it'll be like, oh, right, you were CB6 for a reason. So
I remember some highlights where he looked really good at the beginning of the year. And then, yeah. It was just kind of like people curiously stopped talking about him.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a defense full of people who we expect to play well on paper, but a defense that has just not performed up to the level that a lot of people had hoped. And obviously, this is more an offensively driven team and an offense that hasn't kind of lived up to. I mean, like you said, like second in points scored, but still doesn't feel like an offense that's meeting the moment, right? And so you've got a team that is about league average when they just won the NFC. Well, they got the top. Did they get the top seed last year? No,
sure did.
They did. Okay, there were like a lot of 14 win teams last year. So, I know the Vikings were one of them. Somehow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I remember that.
That's nuts that happened. All right, you hate talking about special teams, but they do seem more relevant to the Lions this year than most years.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. So tell me about the special teams unit. You can tell me about kick return, punt return, kickoff. How is the kickoff unit? That is genuinely important.
Yeah, I mean, they started the year with a lot of. I don't know. They were giving up some big plays. They were getting like no explosives in the return game. I think everything was like returned to exactly the 30-yard line and nothing more, nothing less. And then when we asked the special teams coordinator about it, he's like, yeah, sometimes consistency is more important than explosive plays.
Come on, dog.
Yeah. He's just like, we kind of like that. Like, because if you try to run, east west, like you're going to get tackled at the 20 and then blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. Who cares? Since then they've been a little bit better for some reason. Like Tom Kennedy was the guy to unlock everything, a guy who has like always just been wide receiver 7 on the team, on the practice squad, like guy that they always like, oh my gosh, he's so good on scout team, blah, 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 blah. And he never makes the roster because he couldn't do anything on special teams. He was terrible on special teams. And then he comes in after like 3 injuries to returners, and lo and behold, like he rips off a couple like 40-yard returns and like, oh, you can do this? Oh, dang. And then he really hasn't done it since. So I'm like, oh, it was just kind of like lightning in the bottle. Who cares?
All right.
And then in terms of coverage, teams are fine. Like they've been a lot better in the second half of the season. I don't know if they've given up anything I would consider explosive in, 2 months, maybe. I would say probably the most notable thing is Jake Bates, their kicker, who was from the UFL, after having like a 90, I want to say 1 or 2% success rate or accuracy rate in field goals last year, has not been great this year. They still have like full 100% faith in him, but he pulls so much to the left. And he's also been responsible for, I'd say maybe, I think they've had 4 block kicks this year. And I think he was responsible for 3 of them for just kicking them too low. And the special teams coordinator would be like, they'd call him out. He'd be like, yeah, that one, I think it was just too low. Like you just kind of hit it too high on the football. Which, I mean, I guess kudos to your honesty, but kind of throwing that guy under the bus a little bit. but I think part of it becomes that, you know, is because he does have so much faith in the guy. You know, we even like mentioned, you know, I think as a team, the Lions are like 25th in terms of field goal percentage this year, and he's been the only kicker. So when he was asked about that, he's like, no, man, like this. He said, I think in terms of kicks in game and in practice, he's the most accurate kicker I've ever been around. He's making like 95% of his kicks on the
Sure.
Which, as someone who saw him in training camp the past 2 years, I call 100% BS because I've been a little bit concerned about his accuracy since he walked in the building. But he does have a strong leg. And you know, if he figures it out, I think he can be a very valuable weapon, but it's just been a little bit of a step back this year. And I wasn't completely surprised by it, but apparently special teams coordinator was a little bit.
Fair enough. All right. I haven't checked the Vegas odds because, again, I'm checked out of the game. But last someone told me...
Like 6.5 or something, right?
Might be. Last someone told me it was 5.5, and it wouldn't shock me if like the news that for sure McCarthy was out because the hairline fracture was discovered like a day later, and the odds had been out as a non-broken bone at 5.5. So 6.5, they expected him to be out, but now he's fully for sure out. So you got Max Brosmer in. What do we think? Do we think Lions by 7? Do we think Vikings by 80? Equally likely, right?
Yeah, probably. Listen, I was very confused at last week's line with the Lions-Steelers game, why the Lions were 7-point favorites in that game, and I'm not equally flummoxed because you are talking
Max
about
Brosmer, man. You've seen David Blau play, right? Like, you know.
Yes, that's fair. All of that's fair, but I do think I think the Vikings are going to want it to be a ground game, and that's what I'm most concerned about right now in the Lions defense. And I think the Vikings currently have the Lions number when it comes to their defense versus the Lions offense. Especially given all the inconsistencies the Lions are already showing on that side of the ball to go up against what I think is, you know, still one of the best defenses in the league. I just expect this to be a very low scoring slog of a game. And yeah, maybe the Lions win by a touchdown, but if so, it's going to be like a 20-13 type of game where no one feels good about either team's performance. And we're just like, well, I'm glad that's over.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I've mostly been spending my Christmas trying to figure out when we're going to go out to eat Chinese, because this is like the most inconvenient time for a game if you have like a dinner tradition. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
I hadn't even thought about that.
I don't want to take anyone out of the game if you're really interested, and hopefully we gave you enough of a preview that despite my disengagement gives you enough to work off of. Thank you so much for listening. Merry Christmas. We brought on one of my favorite guests, despite how much crap I give him.
Thank you.
Sure. Maybe I don't like guests. Have you thought of that? No. But no, Jeremy Reisman, genuinely well-informed, funny, charismatic, ethical, which is not something I can say about everybody who covers football. Guys, to cover football in general and also the Lions, check out Pride of Detroit, check out Jeremy Reisman. Detroit Online on Twitter is Online, right? On Twitter, is that also Blue Sky, or did you just go with your name? What was it again?
No, actually I think it is. I'm not active on Blue Sky, and I'm on a little bit of a hiatus on Twitter, so don't bother following me on social media.
That sounds pretty healthy. Go over to prideofdetroit.com and like shovel some money to get is that how it works? You have like you like bring a wheelbarrow to an office in like Dearborn or something.
If you have a disk drive, just try to put $1 in there and see what happens.
Just open your optical drive and hopefully you've got a dollar coin, but if you don't, just put $1 bill in. Yeah, it'll figure itself out. All right, man. Thanks so much for coming on. God, man.
Of course, buddy.
All right, let's go to the mailbag. And the first question is from Yannick Eckhart, who asks, after outrushing Jahmyr Gibbs on Sunday, has CJ Ham established himself as the top back in the NFC North? And can he now ask for elite running back money when his contract expires in the offseason?
Well, I mean, I I don't see why not. And you beat out Jahmyr Gibbs in a single week. It probably says something about you, right, James?
Look, I completely agree. Plus, at the time when both running backs went out, my thought was, well, I guess they're going to have to lean on Ham. Like, what else are you going to do? You're going to put Jefferson out there and just have him do end arounds for the entire game? Like, what are you thinking they're going to do? No, you gotta put your trust and your faith in Ham.
Yeah, there's no other way around it. You gotta put your faith in Ham.
Yep.
Okay, hold on. So we, like, my brother and I, we go out like shopping on Church Street. It's like a thing you do in Burlington, and we walk by this coffee shop. It's called Onyx Tonics. Really good coffee. But I walk in and they got like 2 specialty lattes. One of them is an eggnog latte, which is the one I ordered because, of course, it was delicious. I recommend it. The second was a ham glaze latte.
I'm
now if
sorry,
you read
what?
If you read the description, they are very clear that it doesn't have ham in it, and so it's just the glaze is the flavoring. So it's like a citrus and like cloves and like a little bit of cinnamon, like okay, the things that you like honey, like the things that you would put on a ham glaze. I would suggest you come up with a different name than that because, and I was like, hey, why did you do this? I asked, and they were like, you know what? Actually, not very many people have assumed it had ham in it. And I was like, man, you have either a clientele that is very willing to read past the headline, which is pretty rare, or a very, very, because like they don't ask, right? They just order it. Like a very what's the opposite of averse? Risk-friendly clientele.
There we go.
Because like
just a lack of Midwesterners going through there like, wait, is there ham in that?
Right, yeah, exactly. Just like, yeah, look at the ham glaze latte. I want the ham. We did order from Dave's Hot Chicken, and somebody at Arshad's party, I will not reveal the complexion of his skin, but I think you can guess based off of him eating the Dave's Hot Chicken, going, my God, this is so hot. Where's the ranch? Just speaking of Midwestern sensibilities.
Yeah, that screams, when are we having the fluff salad?
Right, exactly.
I say, as I'm pretty confident my fiance is making that for Christmas dinner for her folks tomorrow night. So
I mean, it's good, but it's just like that's very characteristic.
Yeah, get that in a Snicker salad, and you're all set.
Yeah, there you go. Dessert's ready.
Yep. Luke Braun's dad asks, how does this season compare to other seasons in drop rates? Or does it just feel like it's a lot?
So it is, I'm just take a look at this. It's very annoying because like if we're using like PFF drops, which is like probably the cleanest area to evaluate drop rates, JJ McCarthy like leads the league in drop rate. Now it has declined pretty significantly. In fact, I'll just do the math right now. I was like, looking through all of this, I don't need to do pre-show research. And then of course, I realize what an idiot I am. So I could do some research while I figure this out. But I will say McCarthy had a drop rate of 14.9% at some point this season, and his personal drop rate has dropped to 11.9%, which is still number one. But the quarterbacks at the top there, they're and I can do this by completions. Their high drop rates are like Tyrod Taylor's 11.1%. Jaden Daniels is at 10.9%. Brady Cook is at 9.4%. Now, mind you, it's the Jets, right? So you've got 2 quarterbacks on the same team. But a lot of these quarterbacks aren't necessarily that talented. Jaden Daniels is up there. He's been pretty good. Kirk Cousins is up there. He actually surprisingly has not been that bad. But like, Jackson Dart, like the guys at the top also are not generally good quarterbacks. And, I don't think it would be a stretch to say, hey, maybe these things are related. So I'm going to calculate the team drop rates, but I will say, historically speaking, I wouldn't say that this is high for the most drops for any individual team. But I will say it is the highest, as far as I can tell, in the NFL. Yes, the Vikings drop rate is high, right? Or at least JJ McCarthy's drop rate is high, but it's not historically notable. After gathering all of the team drop rates, Minnesota's not even in the top 3 in drop rate. It's Jacksonville number 1, poor Trevor Lawrence. Denver Broncos number 2, couldn't happen to a more deserving quarterback than Bo Nix. And the Jets at number 3. Which again, it's all of these quarterbacks are not very good, but also like there's probably something here of like 3 different quarterbacks are experiencing it, and then the Vikings are at number 4 at 9%. Now Carson Wentz did have a pretty low drop rate last year. Sam Darnold had a relatively low drop rate last year, or the year before that. Kirk Cousins and then like Dobbs and Mullins and all that had pretty low drop rates, and this is a pretty similar receiving core to those historical receiving cores. So I do think that player quality or quarterback quality is playing a role in these drop rates. And at 9%, it is high, but not historically notable. So for McCarthy, it's very high, 11.9%. For a team, the Vikings aren't even in the top 3. And then going over the years, actually drop rates, as far as I can tell, were actually higher back in like 2007 and so on, 2008. Than they are now. So if I take a look at like the top drop rates for an individual quarterback in 2008, Derek Anderson had a drop rate of 17%, Brian Griese a drop rate of 13%, Eli Manning 12.6%, David Garrard 12.5%. All of those are more than JJ McCarthy's, and that's 4 different quarterbacks that had higher drop rates. I can like take a look at it in 2009. I'll probably get the same thing. Jamarcus Russell, Jesus, 18.4%. Derek Anderson, again, 18.2%. Kerry Collins, 15%. Matt Castle, 13.7%. Sean Hill, 13.0%. Brady Quinn, 12.3%. Matthew Stafford, hey, we got a good quarterback now, 12.2%, right? Those are all higher than McCarthy's 11.9%. Teams were much more comfortable with like your Braylon Edwards style, like he'll get open, he'll be there for a deep play, and he'll drop like 10% of his passes. It's fine. Like that, like it's quarterbacks have thrown more catchable balls. Receivers have gotten better at catching. Tight ends and running backs, which I assume are a huge component to these drop rates, are much better at receiving than they were back in 2009. So historically, not even remotely comparable.
Let's go to Osman, who asks, what the hell are they doing over there in the NFC East? Not winning.
Yeah, they're not doing stuff. It's not great. The best team by far all hates each other, so that's cool.
The vibes now for the Eagles are basically what they were last year before they started winning. Like it's somehow gotten worse.
Yeah, it's extremely. It's so sour, right? Like it's milk that's been left out in the sun. Like that's what the Eagles locker room is like. And then you got the Cowboys, where it's like, hey man, Dak is playing some of the best football of any quarterback. They're not winning games, but Dak is playing some great football. George Pickens is outstanding. CeeDee Lamb is doing stuff when he's healthy.
Well, they're spotting all these teams 35 points.
Yeah, Javonte Williams is running the ball, and they're losing like because the defense has given up 40 points. Like, okay, so every team is a different kind of disaster, right? Like the Eagles are being fueled by spite, and kind of the ship is breaking apart because of that. The Cowboys are like in a race against themselves and losing. The Giants are just incompetent, right? And the Commanders just broken.
Mashboard, yeah.
Yeah, it's just broken. So everything is different and it's all bad.
Yeah, the NFC East is not great. Robert Gill asks, a question for the commentator corner. Today's broadcast had me shaking my head several times at how bad a job Jonathan Vilma does. Which current member of the Vikings do James and Arif think would make for a better analyst when they hang up their cleats? Special note
CJ Ham.
Yes. When Jonathan Vilma was introduced, they announced him as Super Bowl champion Jonathan Vilma. Before a Vikings game? Yeah.
That's foul. You want to talk about sour vibes? Jesus.
That's
brutal.
Woof. Yeah, I didn't like that. Did not like that at all.
So CJ Ham is an obvious answer here. I don't think I'd go with any of the receivers. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's very entertaining, but I don't think as like a color analyst He would provide a ton unless I'm missing something. He's a very intelligent receiver, but communication and intelligence are two different skills. I'd say maybe probably not TJ Hawkinson actually. I would need to see a 30-year-old JJ McCarthy before I came to this conclusion, but I could see that being a path for him. Aaron Jones, I could see. Like I said, CJ Ham. Defensively, man, if Harrison Smith could talk, if he was capable of speech, I bet he'd be really good at it.
You're gonna have Metellus
Andrew Van
out
Gink.
there.
Yeah. Oh, actually, Metellus is probably my number one pick here. But Andrew Van Ginkel would be pretty decent at it. Yeah. But yeah, I think number one is Metellus for sure. I remember Anthony Harris would have been a really good one from a while back. He was really fantastic at communicating and did a really good job being really concise about really complicated football concepts. So I really loved talking to him. Chad Greenway, I can't avoid that. Chad Greenway would be pretty good at it. But yeah, all these people would be better than Jonathan Vilma.
God, he would break down a play and you'd sit there and go, that's not how any of this works. Like,
yeah, and it's like, it's not even like serious football nerds like figured out that he was wrong about his mouth. It's like you're circling the open receiver and saying he's not open. What are you doing?
Yeah. Let's go to Tank B, who asks, Tank B's going through it. Tank B asks, for Arif's minority football owner corner, though a minority.
Hold on. What do we mean by this? Actually, exactly.
What do you mean, people?
Yeah. Are we talking like minority football owner or minority football owner? Like,
well, I know he's upset. So let's just.
Oh yeah, but I'm trying to figure out why.
Yeah. Though a minority ownership of a team means he had little say in the Kansas City team's moving choice, was he at least given any insights on these new developments for his team? What does he have to say for the damage he's likely to do for my property tax as I live 10 minutes away from the proposed stadium location?
Yeah. So first of all, that sounds like a you problem. Like, oh
Quite
no,
literally, actually.
Yeah. Oh no, my property values are going up. Dude, refinance, man. That's the perfect time. The collateral on your the collateral produced by your home has increased in value. Now you can reduce the interest rate on your mortgage. Are you kidding me, dude? Or pull money and keep the same interest rate and pull money out of it and just have cash on hand. Pay with property tax with that, dude. Speak to a financial advisor before listening to Norse Code for financial advice. A certified financial advisor, actually. So that's number one. Number two, you can always sell your home, right? It's fine. If
NIMBY doesn't work, you can always call a realtor.
Yeah. So there's that. I don't know. Maybe open up your home to partial investment from private equity. Just say, hey, BlackRock, you get to own 10% of my home. Cover
Make
some
private equity work for you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
For Arif's We Live in a Society corner, the inevitable move / my personal inconvenience for the Kansas City football team means a dome is in the future for the Fighting Mahomie. The note is, James, that's Mahomie, not Mahomie. Thank you.
Would you have pronounced it correctly without the note?
So Mahomes' first year in the league, somebody on my dart team referred to him as her Mahomie, and that stuck in my head. And so I read it. So I read Mahomie there, and that was where I went with that.
It was an appropriately placed note. I'm glad that the note was okay.
Merry Christmas. With a dome comes at least one Super Bowl hosting. I abhor Airbnb and what it has done to home values and pricing out people more and more. If I were to let my home out on Airbnb during this presumed future Super Bowl, I already know I would be a hypocrite. But considering my location and the amount I could likely net for doing so, would I be an idiot not to do so?
Okay. This is kind of where I have to talk about the ethics of individual versus kind of systemic.
We're off the rails, by the way. Now, just we're past.
Are we? I can tell.
Oh boy.
So here's the problem: is that systems are designed to push you into unethical choices all the time, and unfortunately, it's the systems that need addressing. And a lot of times, while you can minimize the harm caused by individual choices, stuff like recycling or printing paper less often, or choosing to purchase from bookshop instead of Amazon, which are ethical actions, right? But the system is designed to push you away from that, and a lot of people are end up in spots where they start beating themselves up. They start feeling like they're a bad person because they're choosing these options which are less ethical. But the real problem is that we're creating these systems that mass produce unethical situations, regardless of whether or not you take an individual action. You, Tankby, cannot alter the housing market that much individually. A bunch of people can, and your choice can influence other people, but not as much as you would hope. You have a bigger influence voting the right way, showing up to city council meetings, primarying people, and running yourself than you do in your choice to one weekend out of an entire year Airbnb your home. If you don't make it a systemic business practice of yours, your ethical impact is very minimal. And I would argue that Airbnb once during an event like the Super Bowl has actually zero impact on the housing market, because you're not taking a house unless you're buying a home during the Super Bowl and staying in that, and then Airbnb your other home. You're not impacting the housing market. You are also essentially probably going to be taking a vacation. So you have no impact on the housing market. So I would argue that there is actually not really an ethical problem here for the Super Bowl. Just don't make it a business practice. For the Super Bowl, making like $10,000 or whatever the hell it is, Airbnb your home near the state. I would strongly recommend that you do that.
Yep. Do that, and I'll invite you to my Super Bowl party that happens that year, so you can crash that instead. Come up to North Dakota.
Yeah, with the $10,000, bring sliders or something, right?
Yeah, you are required to smuggle some form of food out from Kansas City. So
yeah, barbecue. If you don't bring barbecue from Kansas City. Sorry, this is James's party, not mine. But I'm just saying,
Reef is just,
hey man,
yeah.
I probably won't even be there. I'm just saying, not in dislike to James. I just always have to do stuff during the Super Bowl.
And it's North Dakota. Don't go there in February.
Yeah, but you bring some barbecue from Kansas City, man.
Yeah. Longing for a crippled Carson Wentz asks, for a Reef's Fantasy Football Playoffs Analytics Corner, is there any data to show that getting a Hell League bye is worse for your outcomes? Come out not fresh, forget to play defense, and let your opponent run up the score? Am I the 2019 Ravens? Yes.
So I assume this person screwed up their playoff.
Oh, yeah. If they would have played their defense, if they would have played their bench, they would have had 500 points.
Oh my god!
You left your
at least I lost honorably.
It was funny. I had a couple of buys last week, and I made sure that just to keep going, just made sure I still had one out, just ready to go. Just not that I was playing anybody, but just so I was prepared for next week.
Right? Yeah. So you'd set your lineup just so you're in the rhythm.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a darn shame. As for if I was a better host, I would have literally gone in and checked out Yahoo and then compared everyone who had a bye to those who lost. From anecdotal evidence that I saw earlier today, it looked like about a third to a half of all buys lost. So it was not
given
great
the
for
advantage that seeding should produce. That's pretty tough.
Yeah, I did think about feeding all of the leagues into Sumerbrand and asking, hey, what are the common characteristics of all the teams that are playing in the playoffs this week, just to see what it would do and see if I could make it piddle itself again.
That's very funny.
Maybe for next week when we have winners. This will be fun to pronounce. Kate is pretty odd. Asks, for Arif and James, K-pop Demon Hunters headcanon corner, do you, in your heart, believe that the Saja Boys plus Huntrix ships broke, or Polytrix ships woke? Plus correct?
Yeah. So Kate is pretty odd is asking if I believe in the romantic the fan created romantic relationships between the members of the band, the main band in K-pop Demon Hunters, which is Huntrix, or the kind of suggested by the canon relationships between the Saja Boys, which is like the opposing band in K-pop Demon Hunters, who are a boy band, with Huntrix, who are like a girl band, right? There are a couple of implied relationships, as well as one, like, I'm going to say textual relationship between the two leads. I would argue, first of all, that Mira, one of the members of Huntrix, is so queer coded, it almost defies belief that she's straight. She might be bi, right? That's always possible, of course. But the idea that she's straight is like a curious choice, right? Anybody can, obviously, no matter what your coding is, your cultural kind of signifiers are, sexuality can be independent of that. But given that it's media and media exists within representation and symbolism, it is unusual and surprising. I will also say that it would not be shocking. A lot of people have kind of, I'm not going to say imposed, or have, I think, fair interpretations of Zoe that might intersect with autism a little bit. And that makes it, that makes the framework by which you interpret the way that Zoe interacts with people just a little bit different, right? And I would argue that all of the members of Huntrix show interest in the Saja boy with abs or whatever, abs Saja. So there is like something there, but I would argue that the chemistry between Rumi and whoever the lead singer of the Saja Boys is, I always forget these names, is so strong that I would continue to ship them unless we're working with a canon where, hey, by the way, if you haven't watched this, super spoilers, okay, so you skip ahead 10 minutes.
10
but
minutes?
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't want to go back to his family. It's fine.
Yeah. Skip ahead a little bit, but the canon where the lead singer of the Saja Boys is dead, that does happen at the end. Then you could maybe explore Rumi and having other relationships, but I think that maybe for respect of that particular relationship dying in a very literal sense, that maybe in a hypothetical sequel, which has been announced, you wouldn't do that. But I do think that I would want to ship Mira with somebody outside of the canon, not any of the Saja Boys and not with Zoe. But if I were, it would be Zoe, because they do have some pretty good chemistry. But Zoe, I just want someone to match her energy. So also not somebody in any of the canon. So I don't think I'm a Polytrix person, but I don't think I like pairing Mira and Zoe with any of the Saja Boys. But I do think the chemistry between Rumi and the Saja boy who died is pretty strong. But if that's off the table, then yeah, Rumi could do whatever. I just think a polycule between the three of them is just, I don't think the romantic chemistry is there. So I have disappointed Kate as pretty odd after apparently knocking the previous question out of the park.
I feel like, since you've been trying to get me to watch the show a lot this season, you spoiling the ending for it is exactly what I needed. Thank you. I do not need to watch it. Thank you.
Okay. No, you're just looking for an excuse not to watch it.
And yet here we are. Kyle Segal asks, hypothetically, if you had been selected to be in charge of a state with a mandate to distribute resources in an equitable manner while maintaining personal freedoms, how would you ensure output meets societal needs while respecting the newly hard-won rights of the working class? Things are taking a turn for Kyle.
Yeah, so Marx addressed this in was it Marx 18th Brumaire. What's it called? 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte, Marx 1852. Marx addressed this in 1852. It's a transition with like labor vouchers to encourage people to engage in socially necessary labor. That's what I think he calls it. Socially necessary labor, while also maintaining social cohesion to make sure that everybody meets their needs. One of the things that is a mistake in the perception of Marxist thought is that he believes in like equity or equality. That's not really the thing. That, in fact, it's pretty clear early on in his writings that he acknowledges that there's a difference in capacity to perform societally necessary labor, but rather that the relationship between labor and capital was ultimately doomed to fail, and itself, he doesn't make ethical statements, but like other people have extracted from it, unethical, right? That the people who produce don't receive the fruits of their labor, as it were. So the idea that it is about equally dividing all the resources is not really what it's about. And a lot of expansion on Marxist thought is to make sure people meet their needs, things like housing, food, etc. And then beyond that, luxuries. You kind of have to figure out what your society is going to look like. But I think everybody has a different answer to like who gets access to high-end video cards or whatever, right? Or like whatever luxury they want, like who gets the bigger, I don't know. But like making sure that people like have those needs met before kind of moving forward. But beyond that, you would probably need to figure out, like, because this is not a problem that is itself it's new to human history. There's like a lot of societies that are relatively stateless, but don't require mandates from above to engage in socially necessary labor, because this is like true before capitalism. People do want to work. Like they do, like, I know we all talk about not wanting to work, but that exists within the context where we're alienated from our labor. People hate being unemployed, even if they receive unemployment checks. People hate not being able to do stuff. They get bored and they want to contribute. People are proud of contributing to their society and to their community. And I don't think you actually need to do that much to get people who are good at building houses to build houses if everyone's needs are met. That's my take on that. Man, Florida's going to look real interesting, huh?
Yeah, I like to think that the Kyle Segal situation is a lot like what would have happened if a positive version of Hank Scorpio happened. Kyle has become Hank Scorpio at this point. I feel like what I should do is put out a YouTube video with just the Kyle questions for the year and just have like the Kyle saga go through from beginning to end, starting with robbing a bank to how do you make sure that equity is equal? Like, yeah,
right. Like how do you run a society? Thank you.
Yep. Please show your work. My 5-year-old plans to replace me asks, question for Arif's Christmas Spirit Corner. I recently made 114 tamales with my white wife. She's fairly good at implementing my masa recipe and spreading the masa on the corn husks. Am I allowed to make her a Latina? And if I make her a Latina, will I be contributing to the white genocide that J.D. Vance laments about?
Okay, to answer the second question first, yes. But maybe that's a good thing. To answer the I'm just saying, like if we're serious about evaluating every idea, if we're a marketplace of ideas, and we shouldn't censor people or cancel them for putting forth controversial opinions, why not honestly evaluate the merits? I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to black out information on PDFs, make sure that it's not something that can be easily fixed by selecting the text and copying and pasting it into Notepad. Like,
yeah.
I swear to God, what's the phrase? Every day we stray further from God. Like, I can't.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's another a tweet from, I think it was like Leon, was like, in 2016 on January 20th, which I won't explain what happened on that date, he tweeted out, "This is the stupidest day in human history," to be followed up by every day that follows after. And like, yeah, you nailed it, dude, actually. To answer the first question, I don't know if my 5-year-old plans to replace me. Is himself Latino? I don't know that.
I believe yes. This has
okay,
been discussed in various states.
Because if he's a white guy, I feel pretty. It's an easy question to answer, right? Just like no.
Yeah, I suppose that would be an issue.
I'm going to go with the compromise answer here, and I'm sorry for kind of choosing a cop-out answer, but I think you can make her Hispanic, but not Latina, right? Because there's a bunch of white Hispanics. There are white Latinos, but white Hispanics is like that's a much more common thing. The difference between Hispanic and Latina is interesting. Look it up online if you want, but I think that is a nice compromise solution here. That is going to convey what you want to convey, but maybe be a little bit more accurate. Probably teach her Spanish first, though. That's a critical component to Hispanic.
If not, the fact that she is in a situation where she is not a detriment to the tamale line is incredibly important.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's a hard-fought victory, and you deserve to be proud of it.
Incredibly important. Let's end with a little bit of nostalgia. Let's go to Kurt Marsh, who asks, "I'm not sure if you remember, but I wrote into the show on August 29th, 2020, citing the fact that each time my wife coughed, I'd say bless you, just to see how long it could go on before she noticed." Just for context, I have another bit to inquire about. When we got married, my wife's DVD collection became our DVD collection. Apologies for the Arif's Anime Corner in the Hell League. Terrible name. But, Arif, you should read Berserk manga. In the DVD collection are homemade DVDs of my wife as the lead in her high school musicals, 3 full-length performances as my wife as the lead. Our original agreement was that at our 5-year anniversary, I'd be able to watch them. After waiting over 3 years, she moved the goalpost to 10 years, likely because I was bringing it up all the time. I have not watched the DVDs, and I continue to wait patiently. We are now in our 8th year of marriage, and in April, we will be at 9 years. We have a bit that when I watch the videos, I'll walk out. The DVDs are the only thing keeping me in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Should I actually do it for the bit? That is the end of the relationship after watching the performances with her. I'm very close with her family. What would I tell them? Granted, she's the love of my life, and I would be selling my soul and my quality of life for a bit. But if I did, what should I tell my friends and family? Also, what's the NFL comp for leaving the relationship / sacrificing my well-being and happiness for the bit? Wow.
Okay. So the relationship corner is traditionally James's corner, and this was not specified for a corner, but I do want to put it there. So I do want to
have
James'
an opinion.
answer.
I do definitely have an opinion.
I do think that no matter what, I think both of us will agree on this, that if the decision is to leave for the bit, I'm not saying that's the decision, if you got to tell them that's the reason. You got to tell them the reason. Because in order to maintain the bit, you have to, produce it when pressured. That's what the bit is for. So that's what I'm saying. I think that there's got to be a way to comically and not actually produce something that looks like leaving when you watch the thing, so that you don't have to leave the relationship, but you can do something like go on a staycation. And that's part, and you're doing the bit without actually sacrificing the relationship. But hey man, James and I have both been through a lot relationship wise, like a lot. Probably don't throw one away is what I'm saying.
So I am going to try to both not be incredibly vulgar here. And I am going to try my best to make this not sound like I'm crazy. I would
Good
not
luck.
do it. I would not watch the videos.
You wouldn't watch the videos?
I would not watch the videos. This inside joke, this little thing that the two of you have going is good. Keep it. I have a rule. I have a personal rule in all of my relationships. And this rule, once violated, has immediately afterwards, these relationships, regardless of whether or not they were going to end, have like ended immediately after that. And maybe it's just coincidence, but every time that it's happened, it's ended, and that's just been the end of it.
What's the rule, James?
I firmly believe in not going number 2 in front of the other person that you're with. Going to the bathroom.
Okay.
And every time that something like this has happened where somebody's walked in, or if they've just come in and grab something while they're doing, nope, that's it. Somehow the relationship ends.
Okay.
And
not what I expected. I thought the rule would be like, we don't go through who we were as people before, which I think is crazy. Who we were as people before we were in the relationship.
Nope.
What does this have to do with this?
You have a superstition. A superstition is in place. You honor that superstition. This superstition is keeping your marriage together. I say
that's so. This is stupid.
Nope. This is something that you should keep. Enjoy the mystery.
Okay, we strongly disagree. Watch the DVDs and then don't leave. It's fun. Here's the caveat. If she genuinely just doesn't want you to see them, and it's like been 10 years, and she's like, look, I just don't want you to see them, then stop. Then don't watch them, right? But if it's a game you're playing, like, it's fine. I don't know, man. It's kind of difficult because I am dating someone who did know who I was in high school. And this is not somebody I've like kept in contact with over like the past 15, 20 years, right? But who did know who I was in high school. So like it is kind of impossible for me to like hide like high school videos and stuff like that. But yeah, that is a little bit different. But I don't know, man. If she doesn't want you to watch, like, just don't pressure it. It was funny to like punish you by extending it by 5 years and stuff like that. But like if she's like, okay, yeah, it's fine. Watch it. This is not a superstition.
Nope.
These are bits, which are not superstitions.
Nope. Keep the superstition. Keep a marriage needs something to keep
Mystery
going.
alive.
A marriage needs something to like to latch on to keep going. This is my suggestion. And I realize James's relationship advice typically is something that should be completely ignored. I get that. I've listened to I've done a lot of listening to the mailbag this year. I got to tell you, it's not some of my best work, but pretend you're a baseball player and just if you break the suspicion, you're not going to
and eat a whole chicken before you watch the DVDs.
Yep,
yeah,
that's. I had to do an install for the baseball team this year. We put in a new sound system for them, and they freaked out, not because they were getting this great new sound system, but because they like went to the playoffs like the last 3 years. Like, how dare you take out our equipment? It's like, God, I appreciate all of you insane people. I love it so much. And with that is me, the end of this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Arif, what do you have to plug?
Yeah, we've got a piece from Matt Freese, who submitted the piece yesterday, and I didn't realize it. So that's my problem, Matt. I'm sorry. Who I'll be editing tonight about how the Brian Flores defense absolutely just demolished Jackson Dart and the Giants and what they did to do it. That should be fun. I understand that some people are checking out of the season. I think kind of learning about the way that the Vikings continue to evolve the defense is like really valuable and interesting. It'll probably give you like a heads up for next year, kind of like the stuff to look for. So that's coming up. Obviously, we've got like pieces, like I wrote my piece about kind of covering the game while also kind of feeling a little bit disjointed about what this means for the Viking season and stuff like that. That's over at Wide Left, and we're going to be transitioning to a bunch of draft coverage soon. We got a bunch of really great draft pieces already over at Wide Left, so check that over at wideleft.football.
So that is going to be it for this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. The Christmas show will be out here on the 25th, so enjoy that as well. And happy holidays to everyone, and we will be back next week. So for Arif, my name is James. Thank you guys so much for listening, and please remember that you never want to go double Ngakwe. And we'll be back next week. Norse Code is the largest and only division of Norse Code LLC. You can find Norse Code on the Daily Norseman, SB Nation's Vikings blog at dailynorseman.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Our Vikings blogger extraordinaire and generally useful human is Arif Hassan of... and he can be found on Twitter at Arif Hassan NFL. I am your producer and host, and my name is James Pagashnik. You can find me at the show's official Twitter feed at NorseCodeDN or at my personal account at Big Mono. If you'd like to donate a few bucks to the show, you can do so in a couple of different ways. You can go to patreon.com/NorseCode and donate there. For $3.50 a month, you get bonus material and more. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and pick up some Norse Code merch. Any questions or comments that cannot fit in a tweet can be sent to norsecodepodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of the Norse Code staff, we thank you so much for listening.
Our formula is this.
Hey, all things are possible through the power of Ben DiNucci.